All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of great millstone who are learning this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today is Monday, June 22nd, 2026, Missile Monday. And I have this article from Defense Express. And it says, inside Russia's 9M730 Burevestnik, U.S. researchers analyze unlimited range nuclear missile. So I'm just going to go into this article and bring out a few scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And it says, Russia has been developing the 9M730 Burevestnik nuclear-powered cruise missile since 2001. Its nuclear propulsion system is intended to provide the missile with a virtually unlimited flight range. The project was first publicly unveiled in 2018, after which a significant amount of data on the Russian Wunderwaffe, known as Burevestnik, was accumulated. Now, the War Zone reports that researchers from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, Jake Heckler and Robert Scott Kemp, have published a study on the 9M730 Burevestnik. This naturally raises the question, what new information can U.S. researchers actually provide about this project? The key conclusion of the report is that, according to its authors, Russia's nuclear-powered 9M730 Burevestnik is supposedly only a technology demonstrator, or, in more simple terms, an expensive toy designed to satisfy the ambitions of the Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin. In other words, MIT researchers appear to believe that Burevestnik does not pose a threat to the United States or other Western countries, despite the fact that the missile's unlimited range capability is specifically designed to overcome the geographic limitations faced by Russia's existing strategic weapons. So they say that this particular weapon doesn't, it doesn't serve a threat. It's not a threat to, the U.S. or, other, Western countries. Well, clearly it does. Because if it has unlimited range, that means it can be fired from Russia and land anywhere in the world. It doesn't have a specific range like most missiles do, because this is goes to show you that, man, this is biblical prophecy speaking. Now, this particular weapon, will it be used? We'll see, when that time comes. But at the same time, the U.S. can make light of the nuclear capability that Russia has. But, this is in no way, shape, or form a joke, man, because, again, this is some serious firepower, a nuclear weapon with unlimited, range. So that's that should be raising some red flags for the U.S. military. But we'll see. It says, at the same time, Heckler and Kemp believe that despite a series of failures beginning in 2017, the Russian Ministry of Defense's claim of a successful 15-hour flight test of the the 9M730 Burevestnik in October of 2025 is likely accurate. The missile is also assessed to have a subsonic flight speed of approximately Mach 0.75, around 800 kilometers. And as you can see, that's the picture of it at the bottom right here. It says, according to the researchers' assessment, the 9M730 Burevestnik has a fuselage length of 9.5 meters and a wingspan of 5.6 meters. If this estimate is correct, Russia's Burevestnik is more compact than previously believed. It would also mean that the missile is only marginally larger in dimensions than the KH-101 or KH-102 cruise missile family. The propulsion system is believed to be a nuclear-powered, air-breathing engine in which air passes directly through the reactor core and is heated to generate thrust. This design carries the risk that the 9M730 Burevestnik could leave behind a radioactive plume during flight. Put simply, the 9M730 Burevestnik has not been used in Russia's war against Ukraine because, again, if it was, the war would have been over the same day. Moreover, the fact that its first reportedly successful test flight took place only in October of 2025 indicates that the missile is unlikely to have reached operational readiness, even for potential use against Western country. If this publication sparks further interest in the history of the 9M730 Burevestnik project, it is worth recalling that in October of 2023, we explained that Russia's nuclear-powered 9M730 Burevestnik missile was and whether it could actually fly at all. In September of 2024, we published another article dedicated to the missile, which had once again attracted high attention from Western media, highlighting several unusual aspects of the project. Finally, in late October 2025, we returned to the topic of Russia's unlimited range nuclear-powered cruise missile and the tests conducted by the Kremlin's forces. Excuse me, Slakia. And yeah, man, you clearly see the topic of this particular missile has come up again. So the U.S. can, make light of this missile yet again, man. But Russia isn't the only country that's, developing missiles with unlimited range. If not unlimited range, at least enough range to reach, North America. Because they already have something that can reach, America. The Sarmat 2, also known as the Satan 2. China has the DF, 51 and 61. Like these particular countries have weapons that can reach America, man, and that will reach this place when that time comes. So again, they can make light of this particular, weapon as if it's something, to be, just brushed off, man, but it's not. So just going to hit the couple main points, man, and that'll be it for this one. So we're going to start with the book of Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. It says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals and the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy." And right, these modern, scientists and physicists, that are behind developing these nuclear missiles, they're the modern day smiths, because what does a blacksmith do? They make weapons, and not just any weapons of war, man, because that's what, a smith does. So when you'll see, certain movies where you'll see a guy, hammering away, at a sword, that hasn't been fully developed yet, man, that's what these scientists are doing, because they're creating weapons of war, and not just any weapons of war, man, weapons of mass destruction. Because again, these nuclear missiles that are on the earth today have the literal capability of destroying the planet Earth. But as it says in the scriptures, the earth abideth forever. So the entire planet Earth won't be destroyed, but certain lands will. As we know for 100% sure, America, aka Babylon the Great, is going to be destroyed. Other lands, I believe are going to get hit. We know that Jerusalem, or not just Jerusalem, but, the land of Israel as a whole is going to be destroyed, because our land has to be cleansed, but it'll be built back up. I personally also other, countries will be hit, but, we'll see again when that time comes. But that's what they're doing, man. They're developing these weapons, getting ready for this Third World War, and that's the instrument for his work, the ways to destroy the nuclear, missiles, and in particular the warhead, man, because that's really the part of the missile that actually does the damage. The rest of the missile is just, guiding, the missile to its target, So staying in Isaiah, let's go to chapter 9 and get verse 5. So Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5, it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." And right, man, this coming world war isn't going to be like how traditional warfare was fought. We would have one nation of men on one side of the battlefield, up against another nation of men on the other side of the battlefield, charging each other in the center until, one nation is left standing, As I always make mention, when this Third World War finally kicks off, you will have ground troops that are going to be going to war with each other. But this was primarily going to be fought with these nuclear weapons, man. That's that burning and fuel of fire, man. Because again, ancient warfare was fought with hand-to-hand combat. Men having, different weapons of war, swords, spears, shields, bow and arrows, going at it, right? But that's how this war is going to be fought with these nuclear missiles, man. This is why World War III is also known as, the war to end all wars, because that's why these weapons are on the earth today, man, because these weapons are literally going to end war, man. There's not going to be any more wars after that, man, because they're going to serve their purpose, which is to, destroy Babylon, and to also help cleanse the earth, man, because the earth, is defiled, under, Esau, man. And this is what we're patiently waiting for, and they're making light of, this weapon that Russia is developing. And they clearly said that, again, I think I remember doing a video on it, if I'm not mistaken, if they're saying that Russia tested this weapon and it had, at least a 15-hour, flight, a successful flight, man, then, they should, the U.S. military should be worried, about that, because, again, they can try to, build up their defense system, just like Israel, they have the Iron Dome, DT is talking about he wants to build the Golden Dome, no missile defense system is going to be able to stop any, weapons coming toward, Babylon when that time comes. Nothing is going to stop them. So again, staying in Isaiah, this is Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 4. It says, "The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle." And right, man, that great noise is talking about, those missiles, because there's going to be numerous missiles, man, thousands upon thousands of them, are going to be launched, man, and they're going to destroy this place. Because, again, with the New START treaty, which was, which expired in February of this year, limited the amount of weapons that, could be produced, and being serviced by the United States and Russia. With no treaties in place, then that means, again, there's going to be an arms race going on, which there's always been an arms race. But now, since there's nothing holding these particular nations back, that's what they're going to do. They're going to up their nuclear arsenal, man. So they're going to be developing more weapons, getting ready to go to war with each other, man, because this war is primarily going to be between Russia and the United States. Verse 5, and this is the main point. It says, "They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And right, man, it says they come from a far country. And if Russia just proved that, this particular missile, the 9M, 730 Burevestnik, has unlimited range, meaning it can, fly for 15 hours, man. It can reach anywhere, in the world within that time span, man. It can loop around the world, a few times probably, because again, these weapons are going to be flying at Mach speed, so they're going to be incredibly fast, and that's, the time that we're in. Because again, they're going to be launched from, the east, and they're going to land over here in the west, because again, as we know, pursuant to Genesis 27:40, Esau, Edom's blessing was the sword, but these are also the Lord's weapons, So Salakia, I'm going to come right back. I got to get ready for work. So Shalom.